A Build Hatch developed production.
Hello, I'm Aaron Kyle and welcome to another episode of Build Hatch. On this week's episode of Build Hatch, I got to sit down in Queensland with Ed Ross from Trade Mutt. Ed and his business partner Dan started Trade Mutt as a workwear and clothing brand to help fund mental health in the construction industry. These guys commit a huge amount of their profits to TIACS, which is a non-for-profit mental health support service. Ed and I had a great chat, and as you'll hear, these guys are doing some really cool initiatives in their mental health space. Things like Funky Shirt Friday to encourage all of us in construction to have a chat and help each other during tough times. And we've just listed the Trade Mutt workwear range on buildhatch.com right now. So you'll be able to go on there if you need new uniforms or workwear, which will help drive more money towards TIACS and fund more mental health. This week's episode was a beauty, so let's get into it. Ed from Trade Mutt, welcome to Build Hatch.
Thanks for having me, okay? It's pretty good to be here, mate.
For sure. Now, I love talking to people who are doing some amazing things, and it's not too often that I get up to sunny Brisbane here, or Bris Vegas, as you guys like to call it. So we'll hear about Trade Mutt in a minute, but first of all, I like to always go back to our guests' history and find out a bit about them. And so did you always grow up here in Queensland?
No, I'm from central Queensland originally, in Longreach, yeah. So pretty close to it's a bit hard to be geographically centre of Queensland, but there is one a bit, not far outside of Muttaburra, actually. So I grew up on a sheep and cattle station up there, majority of my, early childhood, and then went to boarding school and eventually, down into Brizzy for high school.
So that's the land of hard asses, isn't it? Like, that's pretty hard, rugged sort of hard ass country, isn't it?
Yeah, bloody, all like Mitchell Downs, open country and a bit of, gidgy timber. So no, it was, a beautiful place to grow up, somewhere that, I really cherished, and one that I don't get out too much these days, but one I do enjoy visiting every now and then.
So when you're at school, like, what sort of kid were you at boarding school?
I was always the one that was, couldn't really sit still for too long. Always finding myself in trouble of some way or another, but navigated my way through that and eventually sort of pulled my head in the last year or two of school and started getting some decent grades. And then, decided that, uni and tertiary education really wasn't for me. So disappeared into the Northern Territory for a couple of years and sort of the start of my working life up there.
So what did you do up in NT?
I worked on a really big cattle station up there, just over 4 million acres it was. Worked there for a couple of years and then eventually left the stock camps there and went to a college down in Victoria, did agribusiness for 12 months down there, and then realised that, studying definitely wasn't for me. So I turned around and went back out there and was back out, running a crew of people with another bloke, and got to a point where I was sort of sick of sleeping in swags every night and decided to move back to Brisbane and be closer to mates, and then fell into a mature age carpentry apprenticeship. And that was sort of the beginning of the Trade Mutt journey, really.
That's really interesting. 4 million acres, that's huge. So what does that look like in terms of people and machinery? Like, that'd be a massive operation.
Yeah, it's huge setup. So there would have been 40 to sort of 50 staff, including contractors and that on the station sort of at any one time. Plenty of things going on: helicopters, road trains, trucks, motorbikes, hundreds of horses, Land Cruisers coming out the wazoo. So it's a pretty big operation, but something that I learned a hell of a lot doing, and it was sort of a lot of continuous hard work. I was looking back at a diary the other day. Mum and Dad had just recently moved, and I had a diary in there that I kept in my second year, and did 72 days straight there, one stage of work. So it was some good learnings I took out of that adventure.
Yeah, I bet it would have been hard. Is it very much like work hard then play hard sort of thing? Yeah,
it was, but it was sort of, the thing was you're working and living and eating and everything with the same people day in, day out. So I mean, if you think about the people you work with every day, just imagine that you all go home to the same house every night. You have dinner together, you wake up and have breakfast together, and you do that literally for 12 months. It's it can really put some strain on some people, and yes, a lot of resilience sort of grown out of it. So, it was an interesting time.
So not as exciting as the Dutton Ranch.
No, not as exciting as the Dutton Ranch. No, unfortunately, no train stations. Unfortunately,
that's right. Yeah, that's funny. So you went back to Brizzy and you started a mature age apprenticeship as a carpenter. So what was that like?
It was something that was sort of never the plan. I wanted to come back and get into sort of agri sales, but most of the jobs were sort of outside of Brisbane, and I really didn't want to move again because I'd sort of just moved to be closer with mates. So I was, just doing some labouring to sort of keep the cash flowing in. And then I had a sort of a strange turn of events where a mate found out about a mature age carpentry apprenticeship that was going, and he said I should give him a call, and I did, just to basically be able to keep my labouring job going, and rocked up there and met Dan, who's my best mate and business partner now, and he was started working for the same builder on the same day, and by the end of the first week they said they wanted to sign me up for an apprenticeship. So I thought, righto, and that was it.
The journey to Trade Mutt, I guess, give us some insight into Trade Mutt.
Yeah, so it came about from just long days on the tools in Brizzy, Dan and I being the two new blokes on the job site, trying to figure out how we could eventually one day get off the tools, even though I was sort of just getting on them, and Dan was just sort of starting his tradesman life. Like, he'd finished his apprenticeship and was then doing some subbing and being a tradie. So we were just figuring out what we could eventually go and do. There were a lot of different ideas that we came up with, and one of them was sort of workwear, and why hadn't anyone done anything in workwear? It all looked the same. It all had the same sort of, look and feel, and wasn't, too different at all. So we started to sort of investigate that. And then Dan lost one of his really close mates to suicide at the end of 2015, sort of randomly and unexpectedly, as most are. And that was sort of our first experience, directly and indirectly with suicide. And we just realised that how big an issue it actually was, how that, Dan and I both privileged to be privately educated, but we'd never been taught anything about, mental health or stress or anxiety or how to deal with it or anything like that. So we started looking into why that was, and it was just there was such a lack of understanding around the topic. So we really wanted to make some change in that space and make it more open and inviting for people to be talking about these issues. And we had the idea for workwear and found out what social enterprise was and profit for purpose. So we sort of rolled the two ideas together and launched Trade Mutt in 15th of March 2018.
That's an incredible story. And for those that are listening to this, do you have some sort of insight into some figures in construction around suicide in construction?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. We've never really been focused on anything to do with sort of like these suicide statistics in construction. There's a lot of mental health charities in the construction space that work, sort of off those numbers. But for us, we're really driven by outcomes, and that's people receiving support sort of through our charity. We're not we don't want to make it any more of an issue by trying to fearmonger people into how bad the stats are. Like, the stats are bad, but we're here to try and, turn them around and get people to, really put their hand up and seek that early intervention and start their mental health journey early, and continue to sort of build on that personal development to ensure that we've got the resilience and the tools in the kit to sort of manage it when things do turn sour, because, everyone does have bad days and things happen. We've just got to be able to learn how to deal with them and know who to reach out to for more support when we need it.
As well as construction, I also have an insight into the legal profession. And I mean, like you just said, I'm sure if you broke it down into different industries, there'd be more statistics than in others. But one of the things that, if I compare the workplaces, and this, I guess, has nothing to do with how one is feeling, whether it's, in front or behind the scenes, but it can be a pleasant place in construction. As I say, this might not have anything to do with any statistics or anything like that, but it's probably one of the most positive aspects about our construction industry is the banter and on site amongst each other, and it can be a fun, happy workplace at times.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just working off that sort of existing culture and setup that we do have in most situations, and just bringing in these, heavier conversations, if and when required, you know what I mean? I think that, I know for one, there's a lot of, toxic, construction sites out there where, people aren't willing to have these sorts of conversations. And, it's really that sort of, top-down hierarchy, and, the apprentices get the shit jobs and they get treated like shit. And, I got treated like shit as a tradie. So as an apprentice, you should too. And, all that sort of old school mentality, whereas we really need to be, lifting people up and bringing them along on the journey and really teaching people, not just how to be a good tradesperson, but also, how to look after themselves, mentally and physically. So they've got not only a long career, but a sustained and healthy life.
For those that I guess, that are listening and like, let's say you were, going through a bit of a tough time, what's sort of like a typical way that they could access your people or staff through Trade Mutt?
Yeah. So for us, how it works is that, Trade Mutt, we fund one full-time counsellor over at our charity TIACS, which is a free text and call service to mental health counsellors Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So how it works, it's early intervention. So if anyone's, seen a psychologist or a counsellor before, you book in, you have your first session, sort of get a bit of a lay of the land, and then you sort of progress on from there with that same clinician, and basically, build up, a level of tools or work through certain issues. So you come out the other side feeling better than when you came in. And that's basically exactly what TIACS is. It's just free counselling. So you can reach out and get support for yourself or reach out about, someone you're concerned about and how you can support them further. And the best thing is that you're not repeating your story over and over again. You're booked in with that same clinician over the course of your journey. And then it's text or phone calls, so easily accessible. And as I said, it's free of charge, and always will be, which is really cool.
And this has all become available from your, proud achievement with you and your best mate Dan. You've, beginning Trade Mutt, which was workwear brand that's been able to generate income and then return some income back into this charity to be able to give back and help the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing we wanted to achieve was real change, and we couldn't do that until we had money. So for us to be able to get that, we had to get something off the ground that people were sort of invited into and willing to be involved in. And we're lucky enough that people jumped on us with Trade Mutt, supported us really well, that we're able to, launch TIACS and then go and get further funding from other industry leaders and large businesses in the building construction industry to further fund that. So we've got 38 paid alliance partners which help fund TIACS. So we've got 14 counsellors over there now, and we provided over $2.5 million worth of free private sector mental health care in just over 2 years, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, look, I absolutely love it. And, one of the ways that we've been able to help, I guess, is to get you guys on board with buildhatch.com. We're going to list your workwear range on there. So if people listening to this want to be able to help keep the funding going, it's just a matter of choice, really. I mean, everyone needs workwear for their teams or businesses every year. Everyone out there, they can make a difference by, going on to buildhatch.com. They'll be able to buy your workwear range. That's able to allow that money to go back to you guys through profits and then funding into that charity to fund that daily access for counselling services. That's a hell of an achievement.
Yeah, thanks, mate. And I think that the big thing for us is just keeping the model really simple. Yeah, like with Trade Mutt, it's 50% of our profits. So obviously we're driven by, good business practices, making sure that we are a profitable organisation and can make as much social impact as we can. And then with TIACS, it's a, dollar per change ratio. So making sure that every dollar that's donated is really going into our clinical team and that clinical support for the community. We feel as though being driven by clinical outcomes and real change is what's going to continue to make a real difference in this space and hopefully really turn the tide on these statistics and allow people to reach out and get that support.
Tell us a little bit about your workwear range.
Yeah, well, it's a fairly sort of wide and extensive range. We've got a range of high vis and day only workwear, and then full print workwear as well, short and long sleeves. They're all designed to start conversations about mental health, and as we say, make an invisible issue impossible to ignore. They've got some pretty cool little things added onto them now. We've got a QR code underneath the left breast pocket, so if you're having a conversation with someone and it goes a bit further and they need support or you do, you can then scan that QR code and get straight through to the TIACS support service and start chatting to a counsellor straight away. It's also, got this as a conversation starter emblazoned across the back of all those shirts. So if it wasn't already bleedingly obvious, it's literally written on the back. And it's just a cool way for people to sort of express themselves and wear something a bit different to the job site. And like we say, get those conversations started. And we've really, hooked into that Funky Shirt Friday feel. So people sort of, wear them. A lot of people wear them a lot, most days of the week, but we really encourage people to wear them at least one day a week on a Friday, start the conversation and, have that mental health message, continually in people's faces so we can, make sure we know it's a very normal thing and it's okay to reach out and get help.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, it's just about having that conversation, and particularly males. I mean, males are terrible at bottling things up inside, and some people can be absolute hard asses and get on with things, whereas other people can just be a front, but behind the scenes they're crumbling inside. So Ed, what's it like in the call room? Have you been in there and seen firsthand someone's on the other end and they've reached out, they're in a dark place? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've got the TIACS support service over in Toowong now, so we're not in the same building anymore. But, we hear stories, often Jason, our partnerships director, he's often talking about, overhearing our counsellors saying, we'll book you in next Tuesday or whatever at 10 o'clock. And then there's a bit of a pause. And then, our counsellor will then say, oh, no, it's free. Like, there's no cost. And obviously the person on the other end of the line is getting to the point where it's like, feels as though we're trying to make a sale or we're trying to, get them hooked into some sort of plan, where we're charging them for this service. But no, it's free and ongoing. And, we've got up to 8 and 10 sessions for each individual through the course of their journey with us. And the reason it's not unlimited is because we're really driven by ensuring that from point A to point B, we're taking that person from needing help to no longer needing us, or if we're not able to improve their well-being, to put them onto someone else that can. Otherwise, we're wasting our time and theirs by not being able to provide them, real care. So I think that's a really cool and important thing that we stick by.
Is it more a case of like a general mental health issue amongst people, or is there any, I guess, pressure to construction, or do you think it's like it's not specific like that? There's no connection. It's just very broad and to each individual sort of thing.
Yeah, well, each individual's got their own story, but I think there's a range of sort of contributing factors that are adding more and more stress to people. And what we see obviously is men that are sort of struggling the most and aren't reaching out for that support. And mainly it's due to finances and relationships. And then, you can draw correlations with those two things within personal lives and then also in the workplace. If business is bad at work, you've got financial problems at work, you're bringing them home, you've got financial issues at home, you've got relationship issues with your spouse and your kids, and then you've got relationship issues also back at work. And then you throw in there a feeling of isolation and the inability to reach out and talk to someone about those issues and gritting your teeth. And, before you know it, people are just spiraling out of control. So I think a really big thing that obviously Dan and I do is we reach out and get help ourselves. We see our own psychologists, we see our own financial support people with Trade Mutt and TIACS. We don't have all the answers. No one out there does, but a lot of people can help find the answers. And I think that's the most important thing, is realizing that you don't know everything and no one expects you to know everything. Reaching out, putting your hand up, and seeking out people that can really help you is just incredibly beneficial. And we're just really trying to lead the way on that and allow people to, sort of follow the lead a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to you guys for doing this. And, I love even just encouraging businesses who, may not be able to wear that high vis attire or workwear like that during the week all week. There's initiatives like that Funky Friday or Funky Shirt Friday. I think that's such a cool thing to do. Just on that too, if you could kind of stereotype like a construction business, the majority of them are small businesses where they have their family members involved, whether it's their wife or husband or father or son. So there is a bit of emotion there. And when those pressures stack up, I also like to sort of encourage people, like, for example, if I've had a tradesperson in the past who's owed some money from a builder. Now, that guy is in a world of pain because, he might be down $25,000 and that's the only job he's been on for the last couple of weeks. So that guy, as well as access to counselling and mental health initiatives such as talking to Trade Mutt crew, they also need perhaps some other assistance. Like, does anyone, are there any builders out there who need a plasterer at short notice for a short-term job to help him along as well? Reaching out and making that inquiry is the first step.
Yeah.
That's what I love about what you guys are doing. Reach out, have a conversation with someone, and your guys, if they can't help after a number of sessions, find someone who can.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think that's what we want to continue to sort of advocate for is, we're happy to be sort of the middleman and find that right person for you. Now people reach out to us, with financial pressures all the time, and we're able to then, triage them onto the right people and get that support that they need. So absolutely, putting your hand up is the first step for sure.
So What about outside of work, Ed? What do you like to do when you're not busy running the Trade Mutt crew?
I'm a big rugby league fan, so looking forward to Souths getting back on the paddock in a few weeks. So that should be good, mate. Apart from that, it's just quality time with family and friends. Really, there's not a great deal of other things that we're really into at the minute, which is good. It's just been a lot of work and travel and time with family.
What's the general feel of the construction market up here in Brisbane at the moment?
Mate, it's I think it's starting to sort of cool off a little bit. I know a lot of people that are booked right up, but aren't getting as many inquiries sort of as they were. And it's sort of hard to get a feel for anything at the moment. You get so many conflicting different articles in the news and stuff like that. Yeah, it's hard to really say. I just think that the biggest thing is shortage of tradespeople. Everyone I know that's got a building or trade related business is just crying out for people. They just cannot get anyone. I think that anyone that wants to stay in the construction and building game and is willing to create a good business and work hard, I think they're going to be rewarded in the long run by the shortage of other people out there willing to do that job.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the leaders will continue to lead, and people who have great businesses and great work ethic, they'll continue to be busy. And usually during these change of trading conditions or environments, that sort of sorts out the leaders from the rest. So there's lots of exciting things going on, and I'm always talking to people, and even pockets, the Sunshine Coast and Surfers Paradise and all those cool areas is the state of Queensland is such a huge area. And there's so many different cool areas, isn't there? I mean, like you said, just even on the other, working in Northern Territory, 4 million acres, it's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same thing out there. It's hard to get, any people out there. I was even just talking to someone on the weekend who had a house built just at Esk, which is, Wivenhoe Dam, not far at all out of Brisbane. They couldn't get a builder to come out and then build the house from scratch out there because there was just no access to, plasterers or anyone to come and actually finish the jobs. They had to get a pre-made thing built in town and then shipped out and put on stumps, which is just crazy to think that, you can't even get a house built on site in a place like Esk now, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Look, definitely crazy times. Now, like I said, people listening to this who want to help, we'll be listing the Trade Mutt workwear range on the marketplace to be able to help drive revenue back to you guys. People are listening to this who do want to reach out directly or access those services. What's the best way to go about it?
Yeah, so anyone that's listening that wants to reach out to TIACS and chat to one of the team members there, you can, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on 0488 469 88, or check out the website www.tiacs.org.
All right. Well, Ed from Trade Mutt, I really appreciate you coming on to Build Hatch. You guys are doing some wonderful things. You've also got a podcast as well, and encourage people, like I said, to make an extra decision and buy some cool workwear ranges from you guys.
Thanks so much, AK. I really appreciate it, mate.
Cheers. Well, that was another Build Hatch episode with Ed from Trade Mutt. As we discussed, if you need to speak to someone or you're experiencing mental health concerns, feel free to access their free service by visiting www.tiacs.org. As usual, if you know a hard worker having a go in the construction space or a building-related business, person or product where you love what they are doing or selling, then please do get into contact with us and we'll be more than happy to tell their story and get behind their goods or services on the Build Hatch marketplace. Our team are busy rolling out independent sellers on buildhatch.com as we speak, so stay tuned for more and more products and services as they onboarded. As usual, please check out our Instagram page and other socials where you'll be able to learn more about our guests and some of the features of the work that we talk about. Have a great week, and you'll hear me again on the airwaves next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Build Hatch.
You have experienced a Build Hatch developed production.